After waiting for 2 days, it's officially game day for Game 5.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, about a show that covers everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I am your host, Zach Martin. I am the beat writer over at the Hockey Writers covering the Carolina Hurricanes. I am also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is another Carolina Hurricanes weekly podcast. And I am doing all the duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. I am very, very excited to bring a Tuesday edition, a game day edition, as you would also say, for this episode. We're going to be going from the news and notes from Monday's practice at PNC Arena, hearing from what Rod Brind'Amour has said, and also from the players themselves as well to the media. And we're also going to be previewing game number 5 as well on Tuesday night. And it should be a very, very exciting one. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it. I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free, on the App Store or Google Play. So like I said, a very, very exciting show today for a Tuesday edition of the podcast. Like I said, we're going to be going over some news and notes and also going to be previewing the game itself because it is a 7:30 puck drop at home at PNC Arena to hopefully see the Carolina Hurricanes win it in advance. And the fact that we already know who our opponent is, which would, if they do close it out, which hopefully they will. I think they will. We'll get into all of that. But we know that whoever wins this series between the Hurricanes and the Islanders will be facing the New York Rangers since they did sweep the Washington Capitals on Sunday night. But that's a whole different thing to worry about later on. But at least we know the winner of this series gets to play the New York Rangers in the Metropolitan Divisional Final, however you want to call it. Either way, we know who's next. But like I said, the Hurricanes on Monday afternoon did have a practice also in the morning as well. So it was just a whole big day of just nothing but, focusing on practice and talking to the players and talking to Rod Brind'Amour since they were available for media availability after practice Monday morning. And the whole bunch of stuff that they went over that. So that's what we're going to start jumping into right now. It's a lot of quotes and a lot of things to take note of, from Rod and the players themselves. And one of the things that was kind of discussed early on from practice was the fact that Rod Brind'Amour was asked about how he's felt about Tony DeAngelo stepping into the role of, the hole that is Brett Pesce, since, Brett's been out since, the very early part of their series. And, with Tony DeAngelo not playing a whole lot this year, they wanted to kind of see, how Rod felt about Tony and him stepping up over the last few games between games 2, 3, and 4. And Rod Brind'Amour said, really well, he's done everything we've asked him to do. I think he's been really solid. It's impressive that he's able to adjust as well as he has. And I would have to agree, just the fact that, yeah, he hasn't played a whole lot. He's been healthy scratch most of the season. It's, a lot of people are still questioning, bringing him back for 1.6, but the Hurricanes thought they saw something in him for them to take a chance of bringing him back again. And just the fact of them picking up Dmitry Orlov for $7.75 million, how good Jalen Chatfield's been at this year as well, and just the overall aspect of the team and with everyone else that they have on their defensive core, everyone basically staying healthy and the overall team just playing well. It's, like I said, it's just one of those things where Tony DeAngelo just put himself on the outside looking in, getting spot starts when they really needed it after, he kind of had a slow start to the season with, Dmitry Orlov as the third pair. But just for him to come in and play like he has been, I mean, you gotta give credit where credit's due. He stepped in when it was needed most, and he's overall, I thought he's been playing all right. So That's all you're ask for. That's the one thing with the Carolina Hurricanes system: plug and play, next man up mentality, and that's just what it is for the Hurricanes. You've seen it all season with other guys getting hurt. With Martin Necas was out for a good bit. Andrei Svechnikov was out for a few times. Sebastian Aho was out for 3 games. Pick a player who was out. Just plug and play. You saw guys stepping in and doing what needs to be done. So that's just the way the Hurricanes have been. And, they also talked to other players, they talked to the players as well, and just getting their thoughts on the fact that, the Hurricanes are back in familiar territory again, up 3-0 or up 3-1 on the New York Islanders after game 4, coming home for game 5, hopefully to end it. I know last year in the first round of the playoffs, the Hurricanes, they did win in 6, but they had to go do it on Long Island. Now the Hurricanes are back once again with the chance to do it in 5 games at home. And, asking about Jordan Martinook, what are his thoughts with the team being in the similar situation once again, up 3-1, hopefully trying to win it at home for game 5. And Martinook even said, we're not thinking about last year. Every game you play in the playoffs, you want to win. Tomorrow night, we're going into the game putting our best foot forward, bringing everything we've got to win that game. And, responding, this was after practice. Our sole mindset is to come out winning that game, talking about tonight's game for game 5 against the Islanders. And he's right. Like, last year was last year. There's the Hurricanes this season have brought pretty much everyone back. A few extra new faces, Jay Kuznetsov, Jay Gensel, Dmitry Orlov. They have Michael Bunting, for most of the season before he got traded. But it's just one of those things where it's most of the same team with a few extra faces, and that's really about it. And, the Islanders, even last year, they were a completely different team. You have a whole season of Bo Horvat on that squad. It's just one of those things where last year was last year. It doesn't matter what you did last playoffs, is what you're doing this playoff. And, yeah, the Hurricanes are back in the same situation again, but you have to look at it as a different year, different playoff, different mindset. It's just you can't rely on what you did last year. Last year was last year. Like, last year is not going to help you out how this playoffs run's going to be. It's basically going into tonight's game for game 5. You're back home in Raleighwood. You're back at the loudest barn in the league, back in probably one of the hardest places to play in. A place that once that building is going, and Jordan Martinook and Seth Jarvis both said it after their comeback win. Back in game 2, they play better when PNC is rocking, when it's loud and you can't hear a thing. That's when they play their best hockey, because they thrive off the energy. And that's what they want to do. They want to thrive off the energy. They want to go into game 5, get the crowd in it, and just get a couple goals early and put it away, and not give the Islanders any chance to come back. And they want to end it on Tuesday night in game 5. And that's all it comes down to. That's their mindset. And he's right. Like I said, the very last part of the quote, our sole mindset is to come out winning that game. And that's all you really have to do. Doesn't matter what happened in game 4. Yeah, you won game 3. Last week you go and win game 2 on a very epic comeback, last Monday. But, that was over a week ago. Now it's game 5. You got to win the series, and that's all you really need to do. It's just go out, play your game, win the board battles, win the face-offs, go and put this thing away early. Keep your foot on the gas and just suffocate the Islanders. Go back to where you're holding them to less than 15 shots a game. That's all you really need to do. So that's just, and like I said, I love Jordan Martinook's mindset. Doesn't matter what last year is. All that matters is the game tonight for game 5. Win it. That's all you got to do. So completely agree with what he's saying there. And even Sebastian Aho, the fact that, they're going to try to put their best effort forward. And Sebastian Aho even said it himself. It's a big opportunity. We want to play good. We want to play a good hockey game. We don't think anything but winning one hockey game, with an evident focus. It starts with a good start. We just need to come in and have that killer instinct. And yes, he's totally right. Killer instinct. End that sucker early. Get the crowd into it. Like I said, if you get them into it and you get that place rocking and making it loud super early and keep your foot on the gas, and just play the dominant Hurricanes hockey that we know that they can play, then all you need to do is get in front, clamp it down, and just keep the pressure up, forecheck, back check, structure defense. If you get a power play, score on the power play. If you're on the PK like they have been, be a power kill. It's not even a penalty kill, it's a power kill. Because the Hurricanes are deadly on the penalty kill to score some goals. And that's all you really need to do. So as long as they keep doing that, they're going to be fine. And like what Sebastian said, they got to keep a killer instinct in this game. That's pretty much it. If they keep a killer instinct going, they play like how they need to. Like I said, get the crowd into it. There's not really much more you can say about it for Game 5. You don't want to extend this thing. You don't want to go back to Long Island and go to Game 6. You don't want to give the Islanders momentum going back into their barn. You want to end it in 5, and then you go and worry about what's next. But yes, the sole focus going into tonight's game, start off strong, full 60 minutes, play your game, get the crowd in it, end it early. I mean that's all you. That's. I know it's cliche and I know it sounds simple enough, but that's all you need to do. You don't have to get fancy. Stick to what's been working all season, and that's thriving off the home crowd. You won 27 games this season at home. It is a fortress in that barn for the Hurricanes. Feed off the crowd, man. You know they're going to be loud. It's one of the loudest barns in the league. Like, if you ask anyone, it's just, you almost feel like the roof is going to blow off the place almost every time it scores. It's like there's nothing like playoff hockey in Raleigh. And that's what it is. If you get that place going early, okay, then mission accomplished. You got the crowd into it. Game's going to be super loud, and you just do what you need to do and stuff like that. So there were some quotes and notes to come from practice as well. We will get to all that right here in a little bit on a Tuesday edition and a game day edition of Locked On Hurricanes. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton including their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot Panchico machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So go get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like we said at the end of the first segment, there was a lot more notes and quotes and stuff to go over from practice. There was a lot of stuff that Rod Brind'Amour talked about, and even the players talked about. Post practice Monday, it was a light practice. Nothing too crazy for the fact they're trying to get the guys still stay fresh, not put too much effort into it for the fact that with the game coming up today on Tuesday night at 7:30, they want to try to make sure everyone's still mostly fresh and stuff like that. So it was not like a super crazy practice on Monday morning. And one of the things I was really focused on was the faceoff circle, because it seems like for the fact that on Saturday, the Hurricanes only won 32.4% of their faceoffs, which for the fact that if you look at Sebastian Aho, he only won 3 of 18 faceoffs, and Evgeny Kuznetsov only won 1 of his 8 chances. And if you want to look at the fact of just faceoffs in general, it was probably the worst game in that area for the Hurricanes, not even just for the playoffs, all season. It was probably like the lowest as it was. And when Rod Brind'Amour was even asked about it, Rod said a couple of guys struggled, but they're taking a lot of face-off, and that makes the whole number worse. And the fact that he didn't seem too worried about that or really concerned for a repeat performance. He even said that was a big opponent. I thought we got better as the game went on, but certainly early that was a big factor, which it was, because if you look at how the Islanders did, J.G. Pageau, he pretty much was a one-man wrecking crew for the Islanders in Game 4, winning 19 of 23 faceoffs. But the thing is, too, the nice thing that going into Game 5 is the fact you got you're back at home. Now you have that advantage of being able to choose the matchups, being able to choose who you want to throw out there first, because now you're back to, you get that pick. You get to pick what you want to go with. So the fact that now it's back into Rod Brind'Amour's hands of how he wants to set matchups and stuff, that's going to be very huge. And even when asking, Jordan Staal about it, Jordan Staal said throughout the lineup at center, we've got to be better. That's what we talked about post-game on Saturday. And he even said, even if we had one apart, part of, or the ones they've lost, we've had to have a better chance of winning that game. It wasn't great. And that's just, that's something they really need to look into, and the fact that you're hoping, that's something they can focus on and readdress going into Game 5 is working on those faceoffs and making sure that, they're ready to go, and, you don't see them getting, less than 33% of the wins. Because, offensive zone chances, they weren't really getting a whole lot of them when they had the chance on the offensive zone to win, especially on the power play. You got to win those chances and stuff like that. And that's one of those things where, no matter, even then, not even on the offensive side or even on the power play, just any situations in general, defensive zone, neutral zone, like any type of, whatever zone you're in, you got to make sure you're winning those battles. And only winning 32.4% isn't really, it's uncharacteristic for a team that, with a team that has like Jordan Staal and Sebastian Aho and all those guys. You have to go out there and do the job, for a team that usually gets 50 to 60% of the faceoff wins, every single game in and game out. So you see where it was at 34%. That's kind of tough. You really don't want to see that. So hopefully, going, in tonight's game for Game 5, you see that jump back. You see that, okay, yeah, Saturday's Game 4 wasn't great. But you come back into Game 5 on Tuesday and take care of business, you're back over 50%. There you go. That's all you really ask for. Right? Your team is, and I even said it on Monday's show. You learn from Saturday, go to the tape, learn what happened, and you had Sunday off. Now you go into yesterday's practice. You learn from what you did on Saturday, and you get ready for Tuesday, and that's all you can really do. It's just one of those things where you're in the game. Lost in double overtime. It wasn't a terrible game overall. You would have loved to win it. You would have loved to sweep it like the Rangers did, but it wasn't the case. So all you have to do is learn from it and get better and go from there. And that's all you can really ask for out of the Hurricanes is just learn, get better, and get ready for Game 5. So I think I would definitely, if I'm a fan watching Game 5, I would definitely be paying attention to the face-off circle and see how that's going. And then, how we talked about it on Monday's show, the fact that a lot of the Hurricanes players were getting tossed in the dot. I'm really curious to see if we still see that same thing again. Do you still see the Hurricanes getting, thrown out of the face-off circle every single time, or do you see a change? So I'm very, very interested to see how that works out coming into tonight's game for Game 5. Are they still going to get thrown out a lot more than the New York Islanders? If they are, then that's something to really think about. And if they're not, okay, now are they winning the faceoffs? And if they are winning the faceoffs, what's that percentage look like? Do we see, do you see them going from 32.4% back to 50, 55, even 60%? That's something to really focus on for, going into Game 5 is guys getting thrown out and what's the percentage looking like throughout the game. Because Rod Brind'Amour said they were getting better. Early on, they were getting killed. So I'm curious to see how, if they take that back in momentum of, winning more faceoffs as the game went on. I'm curious to see if that carries over into Game 5. So in terms of the lines, how they were at practice, Spencer Martin was the third goalie in practice with Frederick Anderson and Pyotr Kochetkov on both sides of the nets per usual. How the lines were formed for the forward core, I'm very curious to see if the second, third, or fourth line stay the same, or is this just what we're looking at for a practice? Because we already know that Rod said everyone was healthy from game 4. You're going to expect all the same guys back together for game 5. So for practice, this is how the lines were. Like I said, I'm not 100% this is going to be how they're going to look for game 5. Maybe it's just a practice thing. It'll be very, very interesting to see, when Walt Ruff and the Hurricanes tweeted out what the official lineup looks like. But this is what it looked like in practice. So you had Jake Gensel, Sebastian Aho, and Andrei Svechnikov as your first line, Teuvo Teravainen, Jordan Staal, and Seth Jarvis as your second line. Very, very interesting. The fact you have 2/3 of the J line together with Martin still being on the third, but you move up Jordan Staal and Seth Jarvis. Third line, you had Jordan Martinook, Jack Drury back at center because he's most of the series he's played that fourth line left wing position, but they have him on the third line center spot, and then they have Martin Necas playing the right wing, and he was also flip flopping with Max Comtois throughout the practice. So that's a very, very interesting third line. If you look at Jordan Martinook, Jack Drury, and Martin Necas. And then on the fourth line, usually since game 2, we've been kind of seeing just Barry Kotkaniemi playing that second line center position. This, for practice, he was actually back at the fourth line left wing spot that we kind of seen him in, for a few games towards the end of the year. And then you have Evgeny Kuznetsov and then Stefan Nason on your right wing spot, and he was kind of flip-flopping with Brendan Lemieux. I'm a big opponent of not breaking up Jack Drury and Steph Nason because they've actually been playing really well together. I thought that line of Drury, Kuznetsov, and Nason has been playing pretty good, especially games 3 and 4. So that was something to keep an eye on. Of course, we'll talk about more about that in segment 3, previewing into 5. Defensive pairs, pretty much the same. Jacob Slavin, Brent Burns, Brady Shea, Tony DeAngelo, Dmitry Orlov, and Jalen Sheffield. And then you had Dylan Coghlan with Scott Morrow. So you can kind of see where you kind of have your fourth D pair just to get those guys some reps. Like I said, you also have Max Comtois, Brendan Lemieux, kind of flip flopping with Martin Necas and Steph Nason. You'll get them some reps as well. So it's interesting the fact that you kind of look at that you had some guys in, but also not all the like Jackson Blake, Bradley Nadeau, Ryan Suzuki, those not all those guys were kind of there. So you kind of had some of the black aces there, but some not. And of course, you had your healthy scratches there, like I said, with Lemieux and Coghlan and stuff like that. So, and with Spencer Martin as well, it was a full group, but it's also not like all of your guys together. So it's very, very interesting. But that's kind of what you saw for Monday's practice was those were kind of the lineups, seeing how all those work out, and then just with the fact that you kind of see what the lines look like and what the guys were saying, post practice to media, Jordan Staal, Martin, Sebastian Aho, Rod Brind'Amour, and all of them. So it's very, very interesting to see what was said and what the lines looked like and all that just from Monday's practice. So we are going to, like I said, we are going to start previewing Game 5 in the third segment, and we're going to do that here in just a second on a Tuesday and game day edition of Locked On Hurricanes. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So for the last segment of the show, we're going to preview tonight's Game 5 between your Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. Of course, we all know Hurricanes are up 3-1 in the series, had a chance to sweep on Saturday. Unfortunately, it didn't happen with a double overtime loss. Now it's 3-1, back to where we were last year and all that good stuff. It has been confirmed that Patrick Waugh is going to go with Semyon Varlamov in Game 5. He came in not even fully in halfway into Game 3 on Long Island. So, he started Game 4, and now he's back in for Game 5 again. So it seems like the Islanders are kind of just stuck with one goalie right now. It's, how the Hurricanes took care of, Sorokin in Game 3, knocked him out pretty early, not even halfway through the second period, not even halfway through the game. And it's pretty much been Varlamov the entire series. He started Game 1 and Game 2, finished Game 3, played in all of Game 4. So, like I said, it looks like it's just one goalie for the New York Islanders. So that's very, very interesting. And of course, like I said on Monday's show, Rod Brind'Amour hasn't really said if he's going to go back with Frederik Andersen again for Game 5 for the fact that, they have no practice on Sunday, had a light practice Monday morning. So Frederik Andersen is technically available for Game 5 for the Hurricanes. And I even said on yesterday's show, there's a chance you can see him back in Game 5 again because he's been playing really, really, really well for the Hurricanes. Because if you look at how he has been through the first 4 games, he's only allowed 9 goals and he's produced a .920 save percentage. And just looking at all the of the 16 goalies who've played at least 2 postseason games, and this is from Walt Ruff, only Jeremy Swayman with a .956, Igor Shesterkin with a .931, Varlamov with a .930, and Logan Thompson of .927 have been better. So right now, that's like Frederik Andersen is 5th out of all 16 goalies who have played at least 2 games to have a save percentage above .920. So he's in pretty good company and stuff like that. And, they've asked Jordan Martinook about, Frederik Andersen. And, Martinook has said when he's on, he's probably one of the best in the league, which is pretty true. I mean, he's only given up, like I said, the .920 save percentage, his goals against going into Game 4 was at a 2.01, and he only gave up 3 goals. And of course, you're talking that's over, going into 2 overtimes. So his goals against average didn't really shoot up. So that's something to keep in mind. And Martinook went farther to say, for us to have him playing the way he is right now is a huge asset to us. We're lucky to have him. We need him to keep going and doing what he's doing, which obviously you're going to see that happen. I mean, he's been playing some phenomenal hockey, and I could see him still playing great hockey as well for the Hurricanes, especially in Game 5. And then, with Rod Brind'Amour, he always tries to be cautious when looking at practices and stuff like that. And, they asked him, will you go back to Frederik Andersen again, or would you go with Pyotr Kochetkov? Because the fact that he hasn't played as of Monday, he hasn't played in 15 days and stuff like that. But Rod Brind'Amour said he's completely comfortable with going back to him despite not really playing at all. Like I said, in over 2 weeks. Brind'Amour said both guys have shown real resilience in not playing forever, jumping right in and then doing well. That's how he answered it. And he said that's not really a concern, and it's really not. I mean, they've both been playing really well, despite having to sit for, decent periods of time. And it's interesting to see if do they go with Pyotr Kochetkov in Game 5, like I said, despite the fact that he hasn't played in 15 days? Or, do you keep right in the hot hand that is Frederik Andersen? Because he's been playing some phenomenal hockey. And do you really want to stop that kind of run that he's been on? Of course, you don't really want to, tire him out and stuff like that too. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on as they go into Game 5, tonight. For me, I would say I would love to see them go with Pyotr Kochetkov because, like I said, he hasn't played a lot. You don't really get him rusty. But Frederik Andersen has been playing really well. The team has been playing really well in front of him, too. You can tell that there's more of an ease and a comfortability with them as well. So I would not be surprised if the Hurricanes go back with Frederik Andersen into Game 5. Now, there is no morning skate and stuff like that, so you won't really know the full news of who's starting probably until about 5 o'clock. And that's kind of where the usual news of who's starting in net, what the lineups and all that stuff looks like. So we're not totally sure what it's going to look like up until that time. But if you ask me, I can see them rolling with Frederik Andersen again. He's just been playing really well. Do you really want to take him out of his groove? But there is that slight possibility that you could see Pyotr Kochetkov back in again because you don't want him to sit forever because he has been sitting for 15 days. So it's very curious to see how that works out. The defensive side of things, I don't see any changes. It's going to be about the same, really. You know who your pairings are. Slavin Burns, Shea, D'Angelo, Orlov, Chatfield, pretty much the same. First line, I wouldn't be surprised if you still see Gensel, Aho, Svechnikov, and then lines 2 through 4. We saw it in practice that it was different on Monday. Do we see that stay the same going into Game 5, or do we kind of see it go back to how they were in Game 4? So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't be surprised if Brind'Amour wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit. See if that works after Game 5, or do you go back to what's been working? Despite they did lose on Saturday, it was double overtime, and they still got scoring from the big boys and depth scoring as well, and it was on special teams. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how that works out. In terms of actual puck drop tonight, so it is a 7:30 start tonight in Raleigh. It's going to be on Bally Sports South per usual with Mike Maniscalco, Chip Trays, and of course you're going to have Hannah Yates, Shane Willis, and all of them. It's also going to be on TBS Max, and if you're in Canada, it's going to be on Sportsnet 360. But that will wrap up today's game day episode of Locked On Hurricanes for a Tuesday edition. Like I said, thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. Really appreciating all the feedback. I've been really liking interacting with everyone on Twitter, especially everyone on YouTube as well. It's been a lot of fun just going back and forth with people in the comments. So if you have a certain goalie you hope starts tonight for Game 5 for the Hurricanes, make sure to leave in the comments below. If you also want to hit me up on social media so we can talk more on there as well, you can find me at OneShoeZach on Twitter or X or however you want to call it. You can follow the podcast at Ella_Hurricanes on there as well. I do have a link to in my bio where you can find all my articles at the Hockey Writers, all the Substacks, all the premium content, newsletters and all that stuff I do over there for them, along with my writings at the Calder Times. And you also can find the podcast on YouTube for the Searchcast, which is my other show. And it also has the links for where you can listen to this podcast on all podcast platforms. If you guys leave a 5-star rating, that would greatly, I would appreciate it. Help me grow the show, get out there some more so fellow Hurricanes fans and everydayers could be able to tune into the show some more. And if you leave a review with your 5-star rating, I might just leave it on the show. And you also can find the link to the YouTube channel, which has been growing really well. Actually, we're over 820 subscriptions. We are on the road to 1,000. So if we get to 1,000, I might do something really cool for you guys. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to hit the bell notification and turn on notifications so that way you don't miss an episode. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button as well, because that'll really help me out getting the show out there some more. And also share with fellow Hurricanes fans so that way they can check out the show as well on YouTube and also on all podcast platforms. But I hope everyone has a great rest of their Tuesday afternoon before tonight's game for Game 5 in Raleighwood. If you're going, let me know in the comments section if you're going to tonight's game. If not, let me know on YouTube or let me know on social media. Hey, where are you going to be at? Where are you going to be watching the game and all that good stuff? But until Wednesday show, guys, like I said, I hope everyone has a great Tuesday. Hopefully you see the Hurricanes win on Tuesday night and hopefully get you a very, very exciting episode out for the Wednesday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. And as always, let's go Canes.